K-pop's tiring obsession with sexualizing barely legal idols. This has been the case for K-pop for a very long time, with Hyuna being sexualized in Wonder Girls at the age of 14 years old, Taemin's youthfulness being taken advantage of whenever he was only 16 years old, and grown adults excessively talking about how excited they were for Jungkook to be turning 18 years old. And as time has went on, I feel like it has just gotten worse and worse and worse. With older K-pop groups, if you had a minor in your group, it was usually 1 or 2 or 3 members, while the older members were usually already over 18 years old, or they were about to turn 18 in a few years. But this also was determined by the amount of members you had in your group. If you had a lower amount of members, you'd have a lower amount of minors, and vice versa. Nowadays, it's become a lot more prominent to have an entire group full of minors debut, or you'll have a group that has the younger members be from 14 to 16, while the older members are still 3 to 2 years away from turning 18 years old. You can honestly tell nowadays that K-pop companies are trying to push the use of minors to be normalized. Before we get started, I just want to say apologies for my voice. If I sound stuffy or if my voice keeps going in and out, it's because I am suffering from allergies right now. I feel like nowadays, because of the push of minors being in K-pop becoming more normalized, a lot of people aren't willing to have the conversation about it. A lot of people aren't talking about it as much. Like when New Jeans debuted, I remember the outrage. I remember people constantly talking about how young they are. But now if you bring up a minor being sexualized or anything like that, there won't be as much conversation or rioting about it. There will mostly be fans bringing up excuses after excuses. One of the excuses that I see constantly made nowadays is the excuse that, well, at least they're waiting till they turn 18. At first, when I saw this comment, I didn't think anything of it, but the more and more I saw it, the more and more I started to think about it. While yes, I can understand that it's a good thing that companies are waiting for idols to turn a certain age before giving them a mature concept, I still think that the idea of grown adults anxiously waiting for a K-pop idol to turn a certain age so that they can exploit them is still very strange to me. I really do feel like we give praises to these companies for doing the bare minimum, and it's almost like that's exactly what they want to happen. Companies are very strategic, so they probably have the idea of doing these little things for their idols to make it look like they care, but in reality, if they had a conversation where they decided that coming out with a mature concept before the idol turned 18 would probably do no harm to the group, they would put the concept out. And I honestly just feel like K-pop fans tend to forget that K-pop companies literally do not care about their idols. No matter how many times they say it or it looks like they do because of their actions, the actual only thing that they care about is that these idols are bringing money to the company. But it's always so funny to me because the same fans who say at least these companies are waiting for them to turn a certain age are the same ones who also say fans waiting for Nicki, Jungkook, Hyuna, etc. to turn 18 years old are weird. Is this not the same thing? And in my opinion, I honestly think companies are even worse because they get to profit off of it. Whenever it comes to this conversation, I also see a lot of people making the argument that we need to stop babying idols. Whenever it comes to something like sexualizing idols, please stop using the term baby. There are many different ways you can use that term with K-pop fans, but when it comes to talking about not wanting a company or fans to sexualize someone who's not even old enough to completely understand themselves, let alone the world, it doesn't really apply there. Another excuse that a lot of people keep making is that 18 is literally an adult and they should know and have an understanding of what's going on. And I'm just gonna say 18, 19, 20, 21, and even a bit older than that are still very early ages where, like I said earlier, you're still learning about yourself, you're still learning about the world, you're learning about other people's minds and how their actions work. You're still learning about the goods and evils of the world. While yes, these are your young adult years, there is a reason why 18 and 19 are still considered to be teen years, because you're still new to everything. You're at that age where you think you should know everything, or you think you know everything, but once you get out in the world, you realize you know nothing. This is a time for learning. This is a time to find yourself. And to people who are saying this, would you say the same thing for an 18 or 19-year-old girl who is being groomed and getting taken advantage of by an older man? Would you say that she should know better and she should have an understanding of what's going on because she's 18 or 19 years old? I've also seen a lot of people say, you know, a concept's just a concept, a dance is just a dance, a song is just a song. And I agree with this to a certain extent. I don't think that there's anything on this earth that is just meaningless. I think everything has meaning. I think everything has pros and cons. And while I do have an understanding that you can listen to the song and just like the song for what it is, you can watch dance and just like the dance for what it is. But I think what K-pop fans need to understand is that there are a lot of people out there that are not going to do that. People were very upset whenever a lot of older men were showing up to New Jeans fan signs and trying to touch them and just interact with them. And whether or not they had good intentions, it was still highly talked about for a reason, because the entire point of us having this conversation in the first place is because we all know there are a lot of people out there who do not have good intent. And instead of us wasting time on trying to figure out who does and who doesn't have good intent, how about we just nip the issue in the bud? If you know you have minors in the group, then why not work on protecting them? Maybe put an age limit on fan signs and fan calls with the members who are minors. Maybe don't dress them in mature outfits. Don't give them a mature concept. Don't have them sing mature lyrics. Just don't put minors in a situation where they can be exploited in that way. And maybe, you know, don't debut minors. If you're not going to take care of them or protect them or teach them, then it's simple. Just don't debut them. I said it before on this channel, but whenever it comes to a company, they only fix something or change something if it affects how much money will come to the company. That's why whenever we see an idol offend a race or misuse a culture, companies don't really do too much about it. They control whether an idol apologizes, how an idol apologizes. If they think that offending that culture or that race will affect the group in terms of sales, then you'll see an apology rather quickly. If they assess the situation and they feel like that section of fans won't really affect the group's outcome, you will probably never hear an apology from them. It will almost be like it never happened. That's why whenever it comes to issues that Korean fans complain about, you immediately see them start making changes, and even if it's not immediate, you still see them try their best to cater to the fans because Korea is their main target. The same goes with companies sexualizing minors. That's literally the only reason why we haven't seen a change, because they're profiting off of it. Companies always know what they're doing. Even if it seems like it's a bad marketing strategy, it was most definitely discussed very many times, with them most likely having a whole moment to weigh out the pros and cons. Which is why I said earlier that we really need to stop giving praises to these companies, because if they thought that a group could withstand the backlash of them doing a mature concept while any of the members in the group were still minors, then they would put it out. There are many different examples of minors doing mature concepts because the company has an understanding that the group will be fine no matter the amount of backlash they get for this group doing a mature concept. And I will say that this narrative is mostly pointed towards boy groups. A lot of boy groups have done mature concepts with a lot of the members still being quite young, and it does rarely get talked about. While if a girl group does a mature concept with minors are still in the group, it will be talked about for months. So there definitely is a weird double standard there, probably coming from the idea that a lot of people assume that guys are okay with it because, well, they're guys, but they're still kids. It doesn't matter if it's a boy, it doesn't matter if it's a girl or whoever. Lastly, I just want to say that I really think people need to stop and think about the fact that this industry is already too much for somebody that young or even older to handle mentally, and people underestimate what sexualizing someone at a very young age can do to them mentally as they grow up and even as they're an adult. But that is all my points I really wanted to make. I hope everyone enjoyed the video. Please let me know your opinions down below in the comments. I would love to read them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone has a great day. Bye bye!